Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cactus Patch. I'm your host, Cactus, and today we have a very amazing topic to discuss. We are going to be talking about the recent LAN Riptide 2024, and who better to have than one of the head TOs of the event, Raze. Raze, how are you doing? And tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and all that.
All right. Well, like Cactus said, I'm Raze. I am a person who's done a little bit of everything, but primarily tournament organizing. So mainly right now for MomoCon and Riptide.
And you say you did a little bit of everything. So you, like, at some point you were a competitive player?
Yeah, I was a competitive player back in S1,
Ooh.
and then all the way up through S2, and then the transition from 2 to 3, I transitioned into primarily coaching and organizing.
Okay, that's awesome. What like drew you into Splatoon? Like how did you get into just Splatoon in general?
Um, I wanted to play a shooter and I didn't have an Xbox or a PlayStation.
So valid.
And that was really it. I remember the direct where they announced the first Splatoon. I was like, that looks sick. And I also had these illusions of grandeur, like, oh, I'm gonna get so good at this game, I just will do it as a career.
Yeah.
Which like, whew, that yeah, I wish
Yeah.
I could go back in time and be like, that's not happening. You might be able to get close, but just don't bet on it.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like that one TikTok that went around of that kid that was like, my dream is to be a competitive Splatoon 3 player.
Well, and like again, you could you could probably get close, just
Hmm.
not right now.
Yeah.
Like we're still a long ways off from like player viability, I think.
Mm.
We're not like a League of Legends or a Dota or a Call of Duty or anything like that. But
Yeah, I know, like, I think Smash Bros. Is, like, getting to a point where they're kind of, like, near there where it's, like, a lot of players. I mean, it helps with, like, sponsorships, obviously, for those
yeah,
individual players, and also, like, the fact that most of them do kind of stream here and there, but, like, a lot of them are able to kind of, like, almost career size playing competitive Smash, which is wild to think about.
yeah. Well, like I would argue personally that Smash player, like there is no Smash player whose primary source of income is competition
Yeah.
because that's like the prize pools are not large enough, frequent enough.
Hmm.
Generally, I could be wrong. I'm not super up to date on Smash, but it's like in things like Valorant and like well, the old Overwatch League,
Hmm.
um, both Blizzard and Riot said this is the minimum salary that organizations playing at a tier 1 level have to pay their players.
Hmm. Okay.
So so they were actually players first instead of like streamers first. But like for a lot of other competitive games, especially Splatoon, the
Hmm.
only way you're going to make money is through competition, not through tournaments, at least right now. That could change in the future, and I hope it changes in the future, but that's not in the next 6 months, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was about to say like, I've obviously like this year has been monumental for Splatoon, at least size-wise for land, and we'll probably talk more about it, like the potential of like, where the game's going from here, where we feel like, or how you feel like competitive might lend, and like how these lands are going, and maybe to a point where we could see in the future like. Maybe not so much like full career size of Splatoon, but like definitely a lot maybe more sponsorships for could be both players slash teams to even the events as a whole. Um, but before we jump super far into that, I do want to just kind of know a little bit more like how you got into like this far into like Splatoon for TOing and stuff. So, tell me a little bit like about your competitive journey into Splatoon. You said you started in Splatoon 1 through Splatoon 2. What kind of
Yeah.
teams have you been on? What were some like major accomplishments you were able to do as a competitive player?
So all the way back in Splatoon 1, it started with the Hank from Nintendo. He ran a 10K tournament. He's like, if you don't have a team, message me on Skype. I'll put you on a team. That's where it started.
Okay.
So he put me on a team. I made some friends there, and then I wanted to be more competitive. And then one of the people who's I made friends with also wanted to be more competitive. So we tried out for this team called Dynamite.
Okay.
They were a Mario Kart clan, and they were also really good. So we got on that team, and then do you remember Creme Fraiche
That
at
name
all?
I feel like it rings a bell. I know I got into the competitive scene in Splatoon in general a little late, but I remember doing my crazy research of just the history of the competitive scene. So that sounds familiar though.
Yeah, so to kind of TLDR it, what
Yeah.
happened is Dynamite had a North American, like some North American players, some European players. The European players split off and became Creme Fraiche, who turned
Mhm.
into like a top 5 team in Europe at the time.
Okay.
And then the NA players over time turned into Deep Blues.
Okay.
There was a couple steps along the way, but like if you go back far enough, Deep Blues is linked to Dynamite.
Okay.
Um, I was never on Deep Blues, but I was kind of there when that ball got rolling.
Mhm.
Um, then I was on a couple other. The other probably most notable team I was on was Unity with Chara back in Splatoon 1. Um, we got a couple good fourth places in majors, but never really won anything.
Mhm.
Then into Splatoon 2, I was primarily like the big teams from Splatoon 2 was Notorious in the transition from 1 to 2. And then after that, I was on Enlightenment for a little bit, which I kind of like to forget about because, hindsight and all that.
Mhm.
And
Valid.
then um, towards the end, when I kind of stepped back from competing, I was on Azure, which I think is a name that a lot more people are a lot more likely to know.
Yeah, but that one sounds pretty familiar to me. Like especially because like I feel like because it was more recent than so the other ones. As someone who got into the competitive scene
Well,
pretty
so
late, but
yeah, so Azure was kind of the prequel to Cherry Limeade. Well,
okay.
it was Pika's team before Cherry Limeade.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like Shy 3K from Cherry Limeade, Mud Cup,
Yeah.
or not Limeade, sorry, Azure. I have Limeade on the brain now.
It's okay.
And like Toast, who was a member of Euphoria, was on Limeade. Who else? Yeah, but that was kind of the um, I think the best team I was on in terms of results. And the problem was is we always faced FT win in the round of 16, so we never got um, actually good results, which was really annoying.
Yeah, that's just the unfortunate luck of the draw. I have to win every
Yeah,
time.
I have a couple of screenshots. This was back when Kbot was still TOing tournaments of
Okay.
Shaq DMing Kbot going, please don't seed as their ninth, please don't seed that ninth. We can't face them again.
Oh my
Which
gosh.
was always extremely validating to see.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, that I think about that has to be cool. Just to, like have like top players back then just being like these guys like make us have to try way more than we want to.
Especially, yeah, in the round of 16. Because
Yeah,
then
that's
how
early
it always
on.
ended up working out is they had to try really hard in the round of 16 to beat us.
Hmm.
And then they would get like one more free round after that. Maybe not free, but like the round of like 8 would be easier. And then the
Yeah.
last 2 rounds they would lock in. Um, we actually ended up taking a game off them in a Japanese tournament.
Ooh.
It was Humpback Zones, but that's like saying yeah, it was 3-0 but close.
Yeah. I know
um,
that all too well.
yeah, but in terms of TOing,
Yeah. Like
um,
what kind of like was the switch for you that was like, you know what? I wanna make this stuff happen.
so Notorious,
Hmm. Okay.
on Notorious, Krim, who's like the captain, was running a tournament called NNCL, and one night he was like, "Hey, I no one else has showed up to help. Would you guys mind helping out?" And I was like, "Sure," because I've been thinking about doing it for a while, and then so I helped him out a few nights, and then that in turn introduced me to Kbot and Jordan.
Okay.
So like then after that, I started doing more and more tournaments on my own,
Hmm.
with Kbot and Jordan kind of giving me tips here and there, and then just like becoming friends with them and Um, that slowly turned into I want to do more, and in order to do more, I need to connect myself to more people.
Yeah.
And then um, after Ink TV kind of dissolved,
Hmm.
I was one of the people who tried to kind of fill that power vacuum
Okay.
with a new organization. It ended up falling through for a while, but then after a little bit, that idea turned into IPL, um, which and then IPL exists, and now we're kind of here.
Okay, awesome. So
Yeah.
what was kind of, because now I'm curious, because that led you into doing a lot more online TOing. What was the first like in-person TOing you ever did?
So the first in-person TOing I did was LTC
Okay.
2021, I
Okay.
think. Actually, I think it was the first LTC. So yeah, I think it was LTC 2021. Basically, how that came around was um, it was post COVID. Endgame TV had dissolved, but KBot is like, this community needs lands.
Yeah.
And you guys, so some people need to figure out how to run lands. So
Hmm.
KBot tapped like me, Kraken, Siren, Rissa were the first four.
Okay.
And then after that first LTC, we started running kind of some events on our own. I say
Yeah.
on our own. KBot was still like
Very
around,
prominent.
making sure
Yeah.
we didn't like super ultra mess it up.
I didn't burn down the building,
Uh,
say this is
yeah,
fine.
exactly. We didn't daisy chain too many power strips together. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's how land TOing started.
Oh, nice. And then from there is where you led into mainly doing the Riptides. You said, I think you said,
Yeah,
what was the other one?
Momocon
Momocon.
is the
Yes,
other one
that
I'm
was it.
doing right now.
My brain was like on Genesis. I don't know why, but Momocon. Okay, nice.
Yeah. Genesis, I would love to do Genesis.
Mm.
Um, but I think the other land TOs would actually just executive decision kick me out if I tried to do 3 lands.
It is that would be a lot. Like I can only imagine.
Yeah. It's a lot, but as long as you have good people who you're working with and
Mm.
kind of what's the word I'm looking for? As long as you have good people you're working with and an idea of what needs to happen when,
Yeah.
it's manageable.
Nice, nice. So, what have been some of your favorite things about TOing or running lands, like either online or offline? Like, what have been some of your like favorite moments? And then we can also get maybe to your I say least favorite, not most hated for a reason, but also like maybe the least favorites.
So my favorite moments are always like the thing that instantly comes to mind,
Hmm.
the game fives. Like
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
Riptide
yeah,
2024 game 5 grand finals, it's basically impossible to top.
yeah,
Like, and the fact that that can happen like every single year is astonishing.
yeah,
But those types of experiences are kind of the best. Like that's the reason that I keep doing stuff, like keep running tournaments and keep trying,
yeah,
because I want to share those moments, because at my core I'm a competitor
yeah.
and I kind of miss competing, but I also want this Splatoon scene to grow and I want
Yeah.
more people to compete. And the best way to get more people to compete is to give them a place to
Hmm.
compete at.
Absolutely.
Um, like I have this analogy for the Splatoon scene that it's a, a competitive community requires 3 things.
Hmm.
It requires like teams who compete, a stage for them to compete on, and viewers for them to compete in front of.
Hmm.
There aren't a lot of people, like there are a lot of viewers and there are a lot of teams, but there aren't a lot of people who build stages,
Yeah.
who build events, who build experiences. And so that's one of the things that I always want to try to have a hand in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense, right? Because like, then I feel like a lot of TOs have taken kind of that opportunity upon themselves as well to help grow that because like you said, like you have that vision of being able to have this community keep growing and being able to give players this opportunity to present their skills in front of other people that same thing want to be able to see this game shine, and view how good players can really be at this game, and being able to put on that show, or not put up the show, but set up that show for them to go in front of those game and the monitors in those chairs that sometimes they knock over.
Don't even get me started.
It's gotten worse lately. I feel like I'm to blame for that, but
I mean, not necessarily. It's one of the byproducts of just having more people. Is there more people who are likely to like knock over the chairs,
yeah.
right? And that's not inherently a bad thing. Like I enjoy a good pop off.
Hmm.
It's just there's a time and a place, and on main stage in front of all of the production equipment is not that place.
Yeah. No.
That's what that kind of comes down to.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense, right? You have so much important stuff back there that that chair could just tumble the wrong way and it's going flying into the production computer screen.
And then we have a really big problem.
Yeah. A lot of money dished out, a lot of setup ruined. It's a lot we don't want to worry about.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, of things that can just go wrong, what are some of your least favorite moments that kind of go through either TO online events or the lands?
The Nintendo Switch, just in
That's fair.
general.
Okay, interesting.
So one of the things that is always the most annoying thing about LAN is the technical troubles
Yeah.
because there's a lot of moving parts and the Switch necessitates that
Hmm.
because it's a hybrid console. It's like half portable, half, at home.
Yeah.
USB-C is great. It is. It's a fantastic port. It's a fantastic standard.
Hmm.
But the Nintendo Switch hardware is sometimes just not good enough.
Yeah. That's. I feel like that's been like an ongoing issue for so long. But it makes
Well,
sense. It makes sense because like I've never. I don't think. I think this land's been obviously because like the sheer number of people has increased. We've seen a lot more, but like just the
mhm.
amount of like land DCs.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that annoys me a lot because I don't have the time to actually find a concrete fix in the venue
Hmm.
because the only time where I'm going to have to troubleshoot a bunch of those problems is while the tournament is running. And if
Yeah.
the tournament is running, that means I need to have people playing games, or I just need to like shrug my shoulder and say, okay, well, I guess I'm ending at 2 in the morning tonight because I want to figure out this problem 100% certainty.
Yeah.
And I don't want to end at 2 a.m. because I would like to sleep
Yeah.
because I have to wake up at like 8 a.m. to go run pools tomorrow.
Yeah. Or like at least set
Um,
up everything the next day.
yeah, it's just yeah, because oh, the Nintendo Switch. It's a piece of hardware.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like putting it kindly.
Yeah, it's fantastic when it works, but there's just a lot of times where you need to just be a techno wizard and just kind of wave your magic wand and hope it works.
Yeah.
Like at Riptide this year, there was the collegiate event. I think it was Saturday night, and in grand finals, there's like a specific special. I don't remember what it is exactly offhand,
Mhm.
but the crowd would just yell, "Let's go gambling!"
Oh.
And and then for the next, like the entire day Sunday, whenever I tried to reconnect someone from a lobby after they disconnected, in my head is just, "Let's go gambling!" And I was just,
Just playing in your head.
yeah, it
Oh
was
my
just like a
gosh.
brain worm that I couldn't get
Yeah.
out.
Oh my god. In your head, you just see like the slot machine, just hoping
Yeah,
everything is green.
because that's what it feels like sometimes
Hmm.
when you're connecting switches to LAN mode.
Yeah.
Uh, because also there are just so many moving parts. Like I've already said this,
Yeah.
but on LAN, there's the switch itself, and there's the dock, the Ethernet adapter, the Ethernet cabling,
Yep.
then a network switch, a router, and that's just the connecting to LAN mode. That's not the monitor, the audio equipment, so the mix amp, the aux,
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
USB-C power, the daisy chain cables. Like that's 10 cables per one player, and
yeah,
all of those are points of failure.
yep. Sometimes even you have
And
to add on the extra cable of the player's headset because some headsets just don't work, even though they're like the right like 3.5 aux.
yeah,
It's just their headset just won't work.
yeah, they just won't work. And like trying to figure out which one of those things is not playing well together
Hmm.
is really hard to do.
Yeah.
Because there's a setup on the the second stream
Hmm.
where it we couldn't figure out why one of the mix amps wasn't pulling game audio from the switch. But if we
Interesting.
plugged an aux cable into it, there was like some interference.
Yeah.
So basically, until like I think we figured it out on Sunday, and Kraken finally figured out a solution. But I was just whenever someone would ask about the audio problem, I'm like, okay, so you can either have game audio with the crackle, or game audio playing out through the monitor and no crackle. Because again, the tournament is running, and
Yeah.
depending on how far behind we are, is how much I'm willing to fiddle with it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's just some stuff like that where it's just, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Why is
Yeah.
it like this?
So would you say like I guess like it would be a like for the like let's say that because we're nearing in on the Switch 2. Like let me refix my words here.
Yes.
We're nearing on the Switch 2. Nintendo has announced like so at some point next year they're gonna announce the successor. I guess to help make this problem easier, what would be your hope for the Switch 2 that would hopefully make um LAN events a little bit better, just a little bit.
Um, I think the thing that would make things like that I really want
Hmm.
is I actually just want OLED docks to be standard.
Okay.
Because they have the built-in Ethernet,
Hmm.
that removes the need for us to have USB to Ethernet adapters,
Yeah.
which is like 2 points of failure that we could just remove from the equation.
Okay. Got you.
So just having that would be really nice. And then the other thing, like a physical switch thing that would be really nice, is better, just more powerful network cards
Okay.
on the Switch. Like those two things would be really, really nice because they would help with the stability of like packet flow,
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
making sure that everything gets received in a timely manner and all that fun stuff, which was just is my current running theory as to why there are so many disconnect issues at this Riptide is that some switches are just getting old,
Yeah.
and then you put a bunch of old equipment in a room and some of it's bound to break. But I could never really test that theory because my focus is on trying to minimize that time so the players can have the best experience possible actually playing the game.
Yeah. And I think there's been like this year alone, there's been a handful of like like top players, I won't say pro players, top players that like their switches of like their batteries are exploding. Like it's or like they're popping out and it's like day one switches or they got like the OLEDs when they first dropped and those batteries have out of like thousands and thousands of hours of use are finally just like I've had enough. I'm leaking this battery acid.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the batteries. I don't even know what we do if a battery is that on land. It would probably just be a go find a new switch, which like sucks to say.
I mean, hey, to be fair though, close to the Kalahari Resort for Riptide, there is a Target, there is a Best Buy, there is a
That's
GameStop.
true. That is
So
true.
I only remember that from like my first ever Riptide I went to. For my first ever LAN experience was when Splatoon 3 dropped, and everything was like
Oh, don't
right
even
there.
get me started on that. Oh, that was a nightmarish experience.
It felt like a
Running
fever dream. It felt like a fever dream.
it was so having to run a day zero tournament on land with a land mode that just didn't work was a fever dream. Like we had like luckily like K-Bot was there, but we had like it was myself, K-Bot, Paste Cat, and Vincent. We're
Mhm.
all trying to figure out why does land mode not work. Like in terms of like Splatoon IT,
Yeah.
I don't think like that's a dream team.
Yeah.
That's like the roster.
Mhm.
So the fact that like we got really lucky that everyone was able to be in the same room at the same time so we could try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because like if I was doing that one all on my own, I probably would have just thrown a towel. Because there was multiple soft locks,
Mhm.
which was just so not fun to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anyone. I don't even think Nintendo expected like that was just kind of. I feel like if there were any Nintendo reps there at the time for that event, right? Like it was like it
Mm-hmm.
had to be like a notebook take out, quickly note all of this because I don't think they expected the land to be tested that soon for that game.
Well, and so Spl- Nintendo just has this habit of putting important in-game events on Riptide weekend. Because
Yeah.
I think of like the three Riptides that I've run, two of them have been on Splatfest weekends,
Hmm.
and then one of them was the Splatoon 3 release date. Like, it's just clockwork.
Yeah. It's
Like,
just no.
I wish I could just like call someone up at Nintendo and be like, "Hey, can we move this like to next weekend? Like, pretty please."
Or like one weekend earlier, like please.
Yeah, like before or after. Can we just avoid this weekend real quick? Like the Kalahari Wi-Fi can't take it.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah, because yeah, that's right. This Riptide we had the super big run or whatever it was, the grand like best
Yeah,
big run.
yeah, the ultimate big run or whatever it was.
So yeah, it'd be so kind if just this once they could spare they could spare us.
I would really appreciate it.
Oh man. So I mean, speaking of Riptide, right? I mean,
Hmm.
we could talk about all the Riptides as a whole. Like we can go down the line. For maybe when the first one that you started and to now, but this Riptide officially the largest Western Splatoon 3 LAN. First,
Yeah.
hearing that, how does that make you feel? Knowing that like that happened.
It's I don't know. It feels weird
Hmm.
because like it just happened, but calling it the biggest doesn't really like sink into my brain.
I get that. Yeah.
Like it's just a oh yeah, that's the thing that happened. Like I had the same type of moment when we were walking out of the venue on Friday night, which was 107 teams played today, and we only finished an hour behind schedule.
God, only an hour is insane.
Only an running
Yeah.
Swiss pools.
All
We
best of
only
fives, which is crazy because
yeah,
usually they're
all
play
best of
all three.
fives.
Usually they're play all three.
Yeah. So online, yeah, they're normally play all three. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which
Wow.
it was just kind of one of those moments where it was like, oh wow.
S- I mean, I feel like it's kind of hard because like I feel like our online tournaments are always getting bigger. So it's like every time we're breaking a record. And I feel like this year for lands that happened too, right? Like each major we had, like had a record broken. Each local that happened had a record broken. It was like we're like it was like it's like a consistency of hitting new numbers that are higher and higher. It's just kind of like almost expected at a point, but to the degree from like LTC this year to Riptide was I think like a 30 team difference, which is insane to think about.
Yeah, it's crazy. So also, yeah, it's just crazy because part of me hopes this growth continue, but there's a little like nihilistic part of me that's like event like surely interest has to fall off soon
Hmm.
because we're reaching the end of the content, like the 2 year patch cycle
Yeah.
or the 2 year content cycle. We're probably gonna get patches for a while longer, but will the players still want to engage with the game at this level in 6 months?
Yeah.
or in like a year? Like, are we going to be able as a community to maintain that kind of presence? And I think we can. It's just going to take a lot of work and figuring out new ways to do things.
Hmm. Yeah, I know like a big thing is like obviously like you mentioned like the content aspect, right? Like at some point there most patches are going to be very minimal and it's not going to be a lot of change for any weapons, any specials, how certain things work in the game in general. And I know like for Splatoon 2 like there was such a long dry period that's why we had such a massive dip from like towards the complete end of 2 announcement to 3. Um we're just there was no high interest, and then obviously Splatoon 3 happens and numbers skyrocket, and we had a little dips here and there, but like the numbers don't lie. They're showing that for right now anyway, the community's doing a really good job at keeping consistent and keeping upbeat with what's going on, and it does help that we're at a point where we're still getting decent patches to a point where like things are still like changing how certain like weapons work and things like that.
Yeah, we're still getting gameplay updates.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like, my big thing is that as long as people keep playing the game and
Hmm.
talking about the game, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I hope it's not calling it like bad on Twitter. That's not ideal. But as long as players continue to engage with the game in some way, then the scene will be fine.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's just the kind of end all be all when it comes to stuff, when it comes into competitive growth, because we don't even necessarily have to grow anymore in Splatoon 3. We just need to sustain ourselves until Splatoon 4 so we can see another uptick,
Yeah.
is like my opinion on the matter right now.
Yeah, I think that's a valid way of looking at it and putting it too, because from 2 to 3, we lost a lot of player base. There was a lot of players that did lost the interest in all completely, and then they it's come a little bit for Splatoon 3, but then you see how a lot of players are just kind of like either skill levels skyrocketed or you're at a point where you know there's a you have like the two gaps of one team's really good and certain players are really good and the rest is just kind of like a jumbled. And looking at how like trying to bring in how like the like from a viewer perspective is for this too, I think it also helps a lot that our top level scene is so stacked. Like it's not the Starburst era of one team takes all in a 3-0. We're at a point where
Yeah.
a lot of our events, like from world champs to our lands to even locals, like we're seeing games go at minimum game 4, at best a bracket reset, which is kind of unheard of for events like this. I mean, online majors are a little differently, but even then, like online majors are seeing that kind of same style right now, where those players that maybe were like struggling in mid level are now fighting some of the best that still want to compete and now have to like have new challengers approach that's like, okay, wow, like you're making me work harder than I've had to work in like a long time.
Yeah. And that's I think there's kind of two reasons for that. And because it's really, really good to see a lot of things really, really close.
Hmm.
But I think part of it is there are a lot of people who really, really want to grind.
Yeah.
And then, but there's also a lot of people who are, I think, I don't know if this is the case anymore, but for top level, for a little bit, it felt like it was. There was a couple teams who were just kind of coasting. And then people were like, I want to catch up. And now that people are starting to catch up, it's starting to create a cycle of, I'm going to grind. Oh, no, I don't want them to catch me. I need to grind too.
Hmm.
And I also think we've started to have a couple more large events, which is good, like the 20XX League and Super Jump
Yes. Yeah.
happening recently, and even LTC, or not LTC, excuse me, Riptide, all
Hmm.
happening fairly close together is a good thing because it's gotten a bunch of people to grind the game again.
Yeah.
It's just maintaining that growth is challenging, especially from a TO perspective,
Hmm.
because like they're not easy events to run
Yeah.
just due to their size. So running those like it's kind of happenstance that we got 3 of them really close together.
Mm-hmm.
But then making those events happen consistently enough that people will continue to engage with it, but also not burning TOs out
Yeah.
is the delicate balance. Because again, these big events just take a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And if TOs run that event, put in a bunch of effort, and then just kind of turn into a blob on their sofa after the fact,
Mm-hmm.
that's like cool. That's one good event, but it's not helpful for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing right now that I'm trying to think about when it comes to like running tournaments and offering my opinion to other people who run tournaments, is figuring out a way to grow us the scene sustainably.
Yeah, we have a lot of like you mentioned, this period of time we had these past couple of months, we've had three amazing events happen pretty close together. But now you got to look at the other like 7, 8 months. What's gonna happen? At least when it comes to mid to top level, because obviously low level, you got low ink every month. You have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
new tournaments that are popping up. You have LSLs, you have from the ink ups, you have a pretty sustainable monthly to bi-weekly events that are pop up that keep the low level player base pretty active. But when it comes to like that top level player base of those players that a lot of these lower level players look up to and like watch for streams or in general have players they want to root for or see how the game can be played, it's hard to have them, have that sustained for them, and then you slowly start losing that grind aspect of it. So it's like you got to find a weird middle ground where you're not burning out your TOs, it's not hurting them to have to run so many events, but you also making sure you're not stepping on too many toes of other events just to have these majors, and having a kind of almost consistent schedule where everything's spaced out enough where like if there's any little dip, it's not for long, and like the interest is
Yeah.
still going to be up there.
Well, and I think the one thing, and kind of my biggest, whenever I go talk with any other IPL TOs, I express this opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so IPL publishes the 1 month calendar of like, here's our tournaments for the month.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
What I've been pushing for us to try and do is once we get closer to the end of the year, is publish a 2025 calendar
Okay.
for the entire year that says we're gonna run a super jump here and then a, like a super jump here, and then we're gonna run a new event here
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, that also requires a lot of effort because like talking with like Dapple,
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Hey, we want to run in these bunts." Like it's very rare that I think a tournament organizer actually looks super far out if they themselves don't have a tournament they want to run there.
Yeah.
Because like why would I even start considering running something in March of next year when it's like August?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things where if like like the TO Guild, for example, published something like that and said, "Hey, top players, here's your schedule for next year. Go grind the game."
Yeah.
I think they would.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting all of the necessary people in the same room, which again is somewhat challenging considering there's a bunch of those people are European, and then like trying to get a bunch of European people and a bunch of Pacific time zone people in the same room can be challenging on the best of days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unless you have like the rare case where like throwback to like the Nintendo guidelines where every
The
TO that could be awake was awake, seeing this all go
Nintendo
down.
guidelines, I remember when they first came out and everyone going, "Woe is us, everything is gone." And then I remember going and reading them and being like, "What are people talking about?
Yeah.
These are fine. Nothing's changing."
Yeah. This doesn't affect us as majorly as it's made out to be.
Yeah. Well, and that's also one of the reasons having TOs who will just kind of go, "Wait a second," and be like a slightly skeptic is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have some that have the sense of it's like it's like you have all like the it's like the Inside Out movie with all the emotions. It's like you have your one group of the panic button, you have your one group of the let's look at this from like the lawyer aspect, let's read the fine detail, and then the like you have the very chill group that's like nah, we'll get over it, and then you have like do like every like you have someone for to fill every like kind of bubble that could be going
Hmm.
through for one person, so that way it's like okay. While y'all panic, we'll read. While you're reading, we'll like just kind of keep the community from falling apart. And like everyone's got like a almost like a job assigned without like purposely being assigned.
Exactly, exactly. People have roles that they naturally fall into and then everything kind of comes together at the end.
Yeah. So I do want to hop back discussing to Riptide. Did you ever think we get this far when it comes to like the size of like Riptide? Like
No,
107 teams, or I think it was technically 105
it was
because
107.
107 it was
All
107.
said and
Okay.
done, 107.
Like like doing the math for that, that's like four players times you have 400 plus players all competing in one weekend for this event.
I think the final total on players was north of 450 because there was 10 or 12.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of teams who had 5 players who had alternates
Okay.
because Riptide is not primarily a Splatoon event. It's like primarily a Smash event.
Yeah, yeah.
So a bunch of rosters would get fifth players to play on like Friday while someone else was going and doing like a Smash Brothers pool
Oh yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something along those lines. This was also kind of the first LAN due to its size where we said we are doing all of our pools on Friday. You
Mhm.
will need to be at the venue at some point on Friday. And
Yeah.
if you can't be, get a fifth player, or on day of, you can find an alternate and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But everyone is playing their pools on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, with the player size, it made sense to do that, right? Because then, like, I know from there you had your redemption, most of silver bracket, and pretty much all of bronze bracket except for finals on Saturday, and then
Yes.
Sunday you had top 32 silver finals,
Bronze
and then
finals.
bronze finals.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably was one of the like if not the best way to put it because of just how massive this event was.
Yeah. So, like, one of the interesting things about the format this year is I don't think. Well, so we had a format that could accommodate 128 teams.
Okay.
If we get more than 128 teams at whatever our next event is,
Hmm.
I do not know what we'll run on a weekend because this was a 3 day event where we used all 3 days, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every single day.
Yeah.
So right now, SplatLANs has the philosophy of we're trying to, at minimum, get everyone somewhere between 4 and 6 sets. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Like if you lose every single set, you're gonna get at least 4.
Hmm.
Although I think for this lane it was 5 because no, it was actually 6 because there's 3 Swiss pools, 3 in your bronze or silver pool. Yeah, so it was minimum 6 sets.
Yeah.
Um, if we start going above 128 teams, or we start doing a 2 day event like LTC, that goal becomes a lot more challenging to execute because we have so many teams to try and play games.
Yeah.
So we either have to make them not best of 5, or we have to start cutting people a lot sooner than we might want.
Hmm.
So instead of running like bronze and silver kind of constellation brackets, we might have to figure out ways to drop those brackets and then do like other fun stuff like a table turf bracket or salmon run or something else like that. So
Yeah.
that when a player is eliminated from the tournament, that's not the end of their weekend. Or you could just run it something like MomoCon, that's a huge anime convention. And if you go 0-2, oh well, go enjoy this huge anime
Yeah,
convention.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, considering the size that this Riptide was, do you think we're gonna get to that point? And if the answer is yes, how soon do you think?
So I think it depends.
Okay.
If the players like the meta and the competition is still fresh and interesting,
Hmm.
I think we could exceed 128 teams. Maybe not easily, but I think we could.
Okay.
If the game starts becoming stale and players stop enjoying whatever the meta looks like,
Hmm.
then I think we're going to see a fall off back towards 96 teams.
Okay.
And then once kind of the Switch Pro or Switch 2 or whatever, and then Splatoon 4 gets announced, that number is going to trend back up.
Yeah. Okay.
But right now, it's, I think, primarily a community issue on how many teams sign up, not a like Nintendo issue, essentially.
Yeah.
Where, because the community has to make up their mind on, well, do we really really like this? And if we really really like this, are we willing to drop like a bunch of money to travel to an event for it in person?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, it is very dependent on the community's thoughts for the game, and that's it's kind of like a chain effect, really, for does this update make or break this moment in time? Do I like what it did to it? If I do, great. If I don't, do I still want to play regardless in hopes that the next one's better? Because, I mean, for a while during like the second, yeah, roughly the Splatoon 3 second year lifespan, we had a lot of updates where it's just like, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. Oh, okay, wait, this is not that bad, and but that kind of waiting around for that one update is enough to throw a lot of players off. So it was kind of like a good thing where the recent 2, 3 patches we had weren't terrible. So the interest was still pretty peaked. It also probably helped that around this time we had these major in-game moments of the Grand Festival, the grand big run event, where
Yeah.
those were announced months prior, and a lot of players are seeing that and they're like, oh snap, like this is getting good. And then of course you have a lot of the like content creators that are helping push in the game still because there's still more to update it.
It definitely helps. It helps a lot. Whenever Nintendo announces events like that, it invigorates the community in ways that it's much more challenging
Hmm.
for like grassroots TOs too.
Yeah.
Because I can go say, "Hey, I'm gonna run this tournament, this event at the Kalahari Water Park. It's gonna be great. You should come." And people are gonna go, "Okay, that's cool." But then Nintendo goes, "Hey guys, we're gonna do a grand big run. Isn't that really cool?" And everyone goes, "Oh my god, yes, that's gonna be awesome. I can't wait." And that's just due to the nature of how much more reach they have
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
corporation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That allows them to really kind of ignite that spark a lot easier than it's like, hey, we're gonna have this Splatoon event. You should totally check it out and compete and like help like make this community whole.
Mhm,
When it's someone
exactly.
then send her like, here's big funny fish running at you. Go kill it.
Here's big funny fish. Have fun.
So compared to I guess other Riptides, because this is your third Riptide that you've TO'd?
Yeah. Yeah, it's my third.
Okay, so obviously size has a lot to do with it, but if what are some, I guess, things that maybe were done differently or like you saw differently at this as this event compared to the other ones that you've TO'd?
I mean, the primary difference is size.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that's really important to me and Kraken, and even Aaron, the person who's like the head TO,
Hmm.
is making sure that every Riptide feels like a Riptide while still improving on it.
Okay.
So, like, the big thing this year, one of the kind of improvements was more stations
Hmm.
and then the production value. So like
Okay.
last year we got the second stage or the second stream, and then this year it was putting more matches on the second stream and having the space to do more matches.
Yeah.
And then also like um, level one just kills our stream every year in like the best possible way.
Hmm.
Um, like yeah, big shout outs to level one. It would not be the same without them.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
the production is always top notch, and they put so much effort into making it enjoyable, like all around. So, I mean, they put in work, and it's noticed.
yeah, it's but like other than that, the big changes. Oh, like this year we really were just focused on how do we maintain the same quality at such a large scale. Like that
Hmm.
was the big administrative challenge this year for like
Yeah.
me and Kraken.
Okay.
Because when you really think about it, I think last year we had in the ballpark of like 60-ish teams.
Hmm.
Actually, I can go look it up real quick.
Well, I say if so, wow, that's
Um,
that's practically doubled a year later, which is insane to
well,
think about.
I saw a tweet that had the numbers for Splatoon at Riptide, and it was like 37, 41, 35, where it was pretty consistent. And then there was just 107. And like it was just a big jump.
Yeah.
Teams for Riptide 2023, Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3, oh, was 72 teams last year.
Okay.
So that's an increase of like 30 teams.
Yeah, which is still a lot. Like, that's
Yeah, we
crazy.
had four more stations, like four more matches that we could play at the same time,
Hmm.
which is a lot more tech that can go wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I guess
me and Kraken were
other
very like,
yeah.
how do we do this and still make sure everyone has fun?
Yeah, I got you. Compared to like the previous events, would you say there was more technical issues this time than the others? Or like was it actually maybe like roughly the same?
It's hard to say.
Hmm.
Naturally, just due to the amount, like more equipment means more technical issues.
Yeah.
So there are going to be more tech issues. That being said, it felt like the same amount to me because I'm going to basically every station all of the time and saying, okay, do you have any problems? And
Hmm.
then yes, no, maybe so.
Yeah.
And then moving on from there.
Okay.
There were definitely more disconnects this year than in years past,
Hmm.
which makes me a bit sad, honestly,
Yeah.
because like the whole purpose of LAN is to not deal with online shenaniganery, and
Yeah.
then having all of that happen kind of anyway just pulls the winds out of the sail, so to speak.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I will say though, it is nice to see that like the community was able to have fun with them when they would happen. For the most part, right? I know there were a couple like situations that were just kind of like spur of the moment, what do we do? But like whenever it happened on stream, you always heard the audience just start clapping and cheering for the DC, which I think is a really good audience effort. I really think that like it helps keep the morale going.
Yeah, which and again, that playing in front of a crowd is always so much fun.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Especially if like even if you're not on stage, like just being able to like have players around you. If you have a really entertaining or hype set going, you just form that little bubble that you don't realize is there until you finish a game, or like if you're on your last game of the set, you just start looking around, you're like, oh, there's a lot more people here than when I started.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the things when teams really lock in. It's just and they come up for air, so to speak, and they go, "Oh, why is everyone here?"
Yeah.
And every other match is finished, and they
Yeah.
just have to look and they look around and go, "Oh, oh wow."
Yeah.
That yeah.
I know that happened with I think it was one of the last sets happening on the stations before they started switching to main stage. Um I want to say it was one of the last matches for Trigger Pitch Zone Supremacy. They had a game go to all the way
Mhm.
to a game 5, and just like the amount of people that formed around the setups only because every other one had finished. And word quickly spread, obviously, it's going to game 5. Like, this is like two really good teams going this far. Um, but it's just incredible to see that, like, yeah, I mean, you could literally just think it. You're just trying to lock in and keep going for top 32, and then, oh, hey, there's a massive crowd here to cheer us on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, what are some things at this Riptide that you saw that maybe you didn't expect to see? Now, I know in this question I put over a couple random like comments of items and stuff, but maybe things that aren't like physical items, or maybe things just in general that maybe you saw that you didn't see it go out to see at previous Riptides. Like, what are some things that were different this year?
Um, one of the things I didn't expect to see that I ended up seeing was Tori. I think Tori PNG
Hmm.
has like a booth where they sell stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Their line went because they were in the main smash room. Their line
yeah.
went out the door and like around the corner.
Oh my. Oh yeah,
Their
that was like a
line was
2 hour wait.
huge. So
I
I
forgot
was
about
going
that.
out to like fill up my water bottle or something like that, and I came
Yeah.
out and I'm like, what is this? And like there were just there's people like sitting in the line. Like seeing that was just kind of like wow. It kind of made it sink in like there are a lot of people here who like Splatoon, and
Yeah.
they're all staying in line for this specific thing.
Yeah.
And also seeing the table turf stuff, I didn't get a chance to like go like physically. I saw it set up a little bit on Sunday, but like seeing that was just kind of unexpected, but like a really pleasant surprise.
Hmm. Yeah, it's nice to see other things set up that aren't like for the main purpose of the game, like the table turf, the art alleys, the what else was there? I know there was even just like on the friendlies, right? Just seeing so many people like be able to like load up salmon run, but like not just because like they felt like it, or it's not for a scrim, like literally for like an in-game event. Um, is really cool to see that like these players are able to find other opportunities when there's downtime.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I wish we could make happen was actually actual friendly setups for Splatoon.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this Riptide and kind of all the Riptides in the past, primarily, we haven't been able to have friendly setups
Mm-hmm.
because due to the number of teams we have, we try and we're trying to get teams as many games as possible. Our formats take us a bunch of time, like again, from like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, me and Kraken just put the key in the door, lock it, and leave so that we can go get ready for tomorrow. Um, so like getting more friendly setups, it would be like my next like, hey Aaron, please.
Maybe just like two more.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, because I know that's a question that does pop up a lot. Even like as someone who goes to like, because since there is a local Splatoon scene near me,
Mhm.
like that is a question that does pop up a lot. It's like, will there be at least like one station for friendlies? And it's like, unfortunately, it's just because of how much these events are growing. It's just kind of like if there's downtime and like if teams are looking to scrim, you get here early enough, by all means. But like, unfortunately, after that, like we got to get matches done.
Yeah. Well, and it's also one of the things Splatoon setups are very equipment intensive.
Hmm.
Like I talked about it a little bit earlier, but there's the audio mixer, the switch dock, the monitor,
Yeah.
like and then all of the stuff that needs to connect it together. So Splatoon setups aren't cheap to rent for a weekend. So
Yeah.
unless you have players playing on that station almost 24/7, it's kind of a hard expense to justify.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the past, in Riptide 2023, there was a stretch goal for Splatoon that was like, if we got like 64 teams or something, we would have 2 friendly setups.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like what those turned into was basically just so like the networking equipment was plugged together, but they didn't have any audio really, because we needed all of it for our tournament setups.
Yeah.
So stuff like that is much harder to get together than I would like because I wish I could have friendly setups basically all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just hard to because you need them for the purpose of the main attraction, really, which is the tournament.
Exactly, exactly.
So, what are these kind of like conversations like when it comes to setting up like Splatoon majors, considering that Splatoon is kind of like the little brother, right? In this kind of land scene of like, hey, like big buff older brother Smash is looking to run another event. Little Timmy Splatoon and their tricycles, like, can I tag along? So
So,
yeah.
um, Splatoon has actually grown enough. We're not really the little Timmy anymore.
Okay.
Like, well, so for the first 3-ish months of Riptide registration,
Hmm.
Splatoon was keeping pace with Ultimate signups.
Wow, that's crazy.
Um, and I think at LTC this year we beat Melee in terms of signups.
Oh man, yes,
Um,
I remember the crowd difference from Melee to Splatoon. Like that, it was because I was like I was one of the people there. Like that was one of the talks out after finals. Like was Splatoon finals, and then holy snap, like Melee's like non-existent right now.
yeah. Well, and Splatoon crowds in general are just like the best.
Yeah, yeah,
Like whenever a Smash player comes over and looks at like the Splatoon crowd, they're like, "What's going on here? How much are you paying them?"
yeah,
And like like our crowds are just chef's kiss, just the
hmm,
best.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not every day
But
you
like
get the crowds literally screaming every game, ready, go.
yeah, but like the conversations in terms of like setting stuff like this up
Hmm.
is it's mostly just us like going to Aaron and saying, "Here's how many stations we think we're gonna need this year," and then here's something. Can we do these things in terms of like advertising and like, hey, we want to have Chara run an ad for us. Can we like get his pass comped?
Yeah,
Like just stuff like that,
yeah.
where it's kind of small asks. Like the biggest ask is at the beginning going to a new LAN organizer, someone who we haven't worked with, in the case like Big House, for example, and going,
Mm,
hey, here are the reasons you should bring us. Like that you should have us show up to this event.
mm,
Because like that sell is a lot harder than getting everything else after that. Because once they kind of agree to have you, once it's publicly announced, they're air quote stuck with you.
mm.
They have to make sure it runs well so they can make their money back next year or even the year after.
Yeah,
Like um this past year for MomoCon, that was kind of the case of just running a small event so that when things happen in future years, they they know all the bumps, the potholes, the things that might not have been obvious at first, and they
mm,
can adjust for those once that event grows.
yeah. It's a long-term investment for them. Like you're trying to
Exactly,
pitch a long-term
exactly.
investment.
Yeah, and like pitching that long-term investment to a scene that's barely profitable to begin with
Hmm.
is challenging.
Yeah,
Um, but it's just a matter of finding the right people to talk to. Because a lot of people also want Splatoon to work. Like there are a lot of Smash players who think Splatoon's really cool,
mm,
So like if I put Splatoon in front of a Smash player, they're going to watch it for the most part. It's just trying to get it in front of them.
Yeah. Okay. And that's good to hear though. Like, I mean, for like, cause like I mentioned, like my reference of like being Splatoon kind of being like the little sibling, was just because like again, like for one, Smash Bros has been around for so much longer, right? They have that upper hand of being around for a long, long time. And Splatoon only recently, like with the release of three, has been skyrocketing, with the kind of the amount of player base that we've been having. So it's really cool to hear that as a community and as when it comes to like, running these events, like it's not kind of like a talk of like, we gotta pitch it again and again. It's kind of like they know, they see it, they're ready.
Yeah. Well, it's we have this graph at SplatLAN that I think we've published a couple times
Hmm.
that it's just a bar graph showing like every Splatoon LAN ever and like how many entrants it got. It
Hmm.
we could put that in front of anyone and say, look, it's trending upwards.
Yeah.
Like there are a couple notable exceptions, like this year at MomoCon because it was 2 weeks away from LTC, only got like 50 people.
Hmm.
But also, I go to the MomoCon organizers and say, yeah, LTC's unfortunately probably not coming back. So there's going to be a hole in the market right here that we could move into.
Yeah.
And they like the sound of that because of how large LTC was.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, taking that graph to like TOs and saying, look, Splatoon as a game is trending upwards. It might take you some time to get there, but once you get there, that here is 400 people who wouldn't come to your event otherwise.
Yeah.
And when you start phrasing it like that, a lot more people start taking notice.
Hmm. Yeah, because that's a big number. Like that's a big number to have to try to turn down, and especially with considering how like again, there's so many photos, so many videos, so much talk that goes around after each event for Splatoon. That of course is like next to Smash Bros. That there's going to be some intertwining, and I know there's already like some. I've seen on social media here and there after like LTC, a little bit from Genesis, of it's like some Smash players are talking about Splatoon's talking about Smash, so it's like the notice is there, and I think it also helps. There's a lot of people from productions from those other games that see Splatoon and like even come check it out. Like I want to say Riptide is here. I
Yeah.
saw a couple people like commentators from Smash Bros that I've seen from the posts that Riptide has made, and even from just like in the past when I've watched like older Smash Brothers commentary that like are still commentating for Smash Bros, but they're like, hold on, let me check out this other game that's in the other room. Oh wow, this is a lot of people in here.
Yeah. No, that happens a fair bit where like again, Smash players will be like, "What's going on over there?" and then walk over and just be like, "Wait, this is really cool." Like
Yeah.
and that's where the crowd plays a super big role. Even if they don't know what they're watching in terms of I don't know what's going on, you can if just based on the energy in the room can understand that it's people here are having a good time and they have a reason for that.
Yeah. And that's really what it's all about. Is just is being able to give that many players the opportunity to have a really good time at the event like this. And it's even better when you have just so many numbers. Like I don't think I've ever seen so many posts like on like Twitter of people being like, "I'm so sorry to say hi to everyone. This land
Yeah,
was massive."
it was because like 450 people all playing Splatoon is just it doesn't you don't realize how big that number is until you actually see everyone.
Yeah, yeah. It didn't hit for me until we were finally watching like I want to say top eight on like the streams and just seeing like the crowd slowly form. Because like what I like to do at these events is if I can is record a lot of the hype sets right when it comes to the stage like the crowd reaction so people get obviously you can hear and see the reaction on like the streams but it's another to see it from an angle of like someone in the crowd and
Mhm.
like when I would look back on them and just like turn around, I'm like, there's a lot of seats here, and I'm like 80% of these seats are filled. Like this is insane. I remember LTC there were so many people, they didn't have enough chairs, so people are pulling
Mhm.
chairs from like old setups, and also maybe just like on the floor standing in the back by tables because there's just so many people.
Mhm. Yeah. Like this year for Riptide, we started the weekend with 12 setups.
Hmm.
We ended the weekend with 8. We had to take 4 of them down from between Saturday night and Sunday morning so that the Kalahari could come in and set up like 100 more chairs.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Splatoon crowds go crazy.
I mean, on the topic of the size, where do you think we go from here, right? I mean, like, obviously you have a couple lands that have already had Splatoon's name thrown to it. You've had Genesis, obviously Momocon. Um, LTC is no more unless something kind of like rebrand happens, which I don't think there's been talk of it. So, I mean, size wise, I know we kind of already talked about with how, the ups and downs of just the meta and how people think about it. But land wise, I mean, where do you feel we go next? Like, is potentially Momocon like the next one we have? Are we kind of not in a place for like a winter, I guess, land?
So I think kind of the next step for the Splatoon scene at large is locals and regionals.
Okay.
Because right now it's hard to justify a lot of majors in person for Splatoon
Yeah.
without us kind of without the entire community saying we only want to play on LAN, get rid of online majors.
Hmm.
Like, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. At least I as a TO would firmly push against that.
Yeah.
But like locals and regionals, like Sea Battle, and what's the Arizona one? Sunset
Oh,
Surge.
Sunset
That's
Surge.
it.
Yeah. I mean, there's even
Um,
like there's so many that popped up. Like there's those. You have New Inkland. You have obviously Metro Inks, Big Dapple, and Gridlock. I know. I think there's one in Texas hosted by Dio.
I don't
Um,
remember. I don't know its name though offhand, and I feel bad about that.
I don't. I just know it's a
But
Houston land.
yeah,
Um, it'll
but
it'll hit me later probably. We'll be mid
sure.
conversation about
Yeah,
something else, and I'll be
yeah.
like, I remember. But yeah, like the
But like
local scene has low key skyrocketed. We have a lot of locals. Booyah Bay in I think it's North Cali.
NorCal, yeah.
Is finally happening since SoCali's been a little MIA at the moment. I mean, like a lot of lands are popping up.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the next big step, in my opinion, for at least in-person Splatoon,
Hmm.
because that's going to get more people like invigorated to like and know what land Splatoon is. And I think there might even come a point with locals and regionals that a land meta will actually develop because we have enough in-person events.
Yeah.
Because right now, the meta is the online meta
Yep.
because you're just playing so many more events that are happening online. But like in person, things feel different and play slightly differently. Like everyone has always kind of acknowledged up until recently that Brella didn't work online.
Yeah.
So there was no reason to put any time into it. But if you have like regionals and locals, then becoming a Brella player is now something that might actually be worth it
Yeah.
because you'll have enough consistent practice with a weapon that works that it will like actually be worth to pull out on a major team with a major scale.
I did find it by the way. It's H Town Splashdown. I found it.
H towns, okay,
And I'm sure there's a
interesting.
couple others like here and there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to like, cause one day I really do want to like go or one year go to every single local, which would be quite the road trip. But like it just there's just so many, and I feel like within the next year we are gonna see probably more keep popping up. I remember I was talking to um their name is Pock. They used to be on Aquatic Vanguard.
Yeah, I
They
remember. I know
um
who they are.
they want to host one. I think it's Indiana.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
but the land scene is kind of hard down there because there's no like some lands um like Metro Inc.'s Big Apple have the opportunity to
Mhm.
host at this place called Brookland, which the whole premise of that venue is literally for gaming. Like they are a pure
Yes.
gaming arena. But it's so hard for places like where they are, where they don't really have a place like that. They kind of they would spend a lot more time, effort, and money into having to completely make it, because you have to find a rented space to put it up. You have to pretty much set up everything from the ground up rather than it being kind
Hmm.
of pre-set up. So
Well,
it's
and
like,
you have to find a way to get all of the necessary equipment,
yeah, yeah,
which is not easy.
yeah,
It's not easy at all, actually. It's one of the more challenging aspects of organizing lands.
yeah. Yeah, I think Rice, who hosts the NorCal, who's hosting the NorCal local, I remember they were like telling me about all the like the mix amps they had to go through to get, and it was a
Hmm.
hassle because not
Yeah.
a lot of people are kind of like for say selling them. Um,
Hmm.
and also it's like the more that these are being bought out, the more expensive they're having to be resold or like sold in general. So like the price is going
Yeah.
higher, and it's like,
Hmm.
all right,
Hmm.
now we're running into an issue where it's like they were kind of cheap before, but still expensive. They're really expensive now, and the quantity is getting the market is getting severe.
Yeah. Are they using like TM1s or like the Astros?
I'd have to
Or do
scroll
you know?
back. They told
Okay.
me I'd have to scroll back to find it. I want to say TM ones.
Yeah, those they're pieces of equipment, that's for sure. That's all I can say about them.
Fair, fair. What's the like? I'm actually curious because like, what's like the major difference between like the Astros and the TM ones? Like I know like one has
um,
like a single dial, the other one has like two, I think, right?
so I mean, the TM1 has 4 dials per person.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
There's a bunch of dials on the TM1. The other thing is just age. So TM1s aren't built to work with most modern headsets.
Oh,
Like they
okay.
will because it's a standard, but like the Astro Mix amps,
Mhm.
because they're newer, work with a larger variety of modern headsets. We and they also use um, audio over USB.
Okay.
So there's tends to be less like interference
Mhm.
and background noise in them in comparison to like a TM1.
Yeah.
They're also generally easier to troubleshoot because like a TM1 is just kind of a big block of audio equipment
Yeah.
that you can't really dissect in any meaningful way.
Got you.
But because the Astros are separate pieces of equipment per player, it's easier to isolate a piece of trouble equipment, whether that's a USB or a mix amp
Yeah.
or a daisy chain cable or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Um, but like the Astro mix amps are expensive for our purposes because of how many you need of them.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest challenges for lands where if I knew more about like electrical engineering and like audio engineering, I would try to tackle myself is that audio interface. If we could find a way to make an audio interface for Splatoon affordable, that would drastically increase, or well, it would decrease the amount of money we would need to spend per station per tournament.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, because I mean, like I mentioned before, like it's just like the scarcity is real when it comes to like a lot of these things, and I feel like for both too, and of course, obviously, expense is the biggest one because we talked about it before, but Splatoon isn't really in a position where like in a sense you're making money from it, or if you're lucky if you break even with certain events, so having to dish out a lot of money for it at the front of it is just like it's a pretty hefty price to pay for like that really really long term like investment and like hold on it.
Yeah, yeah. It requires investment for a thing that a lot of people probably aren't even going to think about in 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the next questions I had was if ongoing size was a worry, but I think we already touched on that
It is.
earlier. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
we
so
did
yeah,
talk a little
one
bit about that earlier, but the
yeah.
TLDR, it is.
Yeah, I mean, we could get to a point where oh, so is Riptide the only major that does 3 days?
No. Well, kind of.
Okay. I guess for
I
like
think
in general, I guess I'm thinking like in general, right? Like to have other like like majors done like 3 days for like maybe Smash Bros or something, but Splatoon's only ever gotten 2 days because we've never needed all three.
yeah. So generally, Splatoon takes 3 days. Kind of the notable exception to that was Genesis.
Hmm.
Genesis wouldn't allow Splatoon to run on the third day because that's when they essentially left the convention center and played and moved their
Oh,
Smash
that's
tournament
right. Yeah, across the
into
street.
a
Yeah.
theater. Yeah, 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 across the street.
Which that
So
theater
we
was
couldn't have any
wild.
tournament stuff going. Yeah, so we couldn't have any current tournament stuff going on in there. But then their like LTC was only a 2 day event,
Hmm.
and then like MomoCon was we didn't need to be a 3 day event.
Mm.
So I think we did do 3 days, but it was very I had to stretch that one out for a long time.
Hmm.
Like a college student who only did half his paper and it was like, now I need to fluff it to get it to my word count.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, running 3 days is something that we haven't seen a ton of in the past, but I think is going to become more standard practice
Got you. Okay.
as we grow, as a community, as a competitive scene, as lands, as events.
Hmm. Okay. Do you think there's ever going to be a time where like I mean, depending if we like grow to a size and like we can't like for whatever reason, let's say we get to above like the 128 player limit and um we're stuck with only 2 days where we might have to bend to like online to finish or like start off the event.
So no,
Okay.
because for that number of teams in that short amount of time, what would probably happen, in my opinion, what should happen is some double in pools so that you can O2 knock some teams out and then go to a more standard format.
Okay.
That's what I would do in that type of situation.
Hmm.
But at least for majors, for Splatland events, we're and I feel pretty confident saying this. We're never going to start an event on LAN and then end it online, or start an event online and then end it on LAN, unless we can guarantee that everyone is going to be there.
Got you.
Meaning we had like Panda showed up and said, yeah, if these 8 teams win whatever qualification, we'll bring them all to MomoCon or LTC or Genesis or Riptide or whatever the case is,
Yeah.
and then they could finish it there. Um, like finishing a tournament online is something that should be heavily frowned upon, in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with that. And honestly, my reason is just because like I feel like that's half the reason you go for that, right? You're there to see these hype sets in person. You're here to cheer on your favorite teams, not behind a monitor. But well, I guess technically there's a monitor between you and them if they're playing in front of a monitor. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you want to be able to join the crowd and chanting whatever it is, whether it's a player's name, whether it's the countdown, whether it's the start of the match, whether it's screaming cooler or soda because someone threw tactical cooler. That's a part of the experience. So doing it online would definitely take away from the experience.
Yeah. Well, and also that finals, that top four is like the best part, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, like, cutting that out, I think, is a criminal disservice
Yeah.
to anyone who attends.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just it's a different feeling. It really is.
Yes.
Um I just thought of it now. So how did because I know I think it was the winners of Super Jump got their pass
Mhm.
for Riptide paid for. Um
Yes.
how did that really like come about? Like how does that kind of get, I guess, thrown onto the table?
So that's just a like toasty, like pigs being cracking, like a hey, wouldn't this be cool?
Oh, yeah.
And then we're like, yeah, that would be cool. We're gonna go talk to Aaron about it. Give us a minute. And then like because it's also a mutually beneficial agreement
Yeah, yeah.
for a major like that to advertise an in-person event
Mm-hmm.
because like if the pass is the prize, like every single round of that online major, like you could have commentators go, yeah, and they're competing for this shiny Riptide pass
Yeah.
at the Kalahari September 9th through 11th or whatever the weekend was.
Yeah. They're the classic
Like,
nine statement of they're gonna punch their ticket.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is just good advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's cool. Because I always wondered that because I thought it was like a really cool addition, to
Yeah.
have that. And honestly, it really did help. Like, it does help out like the competitiveness of the event too. Because I mean, as we saw, it was not a one-sided grand finals. Like, it was anyone's game,
Oh,
which
absolutely.
again we haven't had since God knows. I guess technically you could say Genesis because Genesis I think was a 3-0 for their
Hmm.
championship, but it was definitely
Yeah.
a upset an upset kind of win where like it was a team that no one expected to win the whole thing, but still it's like LTC you had a bracket reset. Riptide this year we almost have a bracket reset. I think Momocon still had like a really good back and forth for their grands.
Yeah, it
Um
did. LAN in general, their brackets
mhm.
I find always to be the most satisfying because there's always going to be one set, at least one set that's going to go on stream or in person that's going to be close.
Yeah.
And once that one set is close, it creates a core memory
Yeah.
for everyone who watches. Even for the even if it doesn't create a core memory for the people who watched, for the people who played. And those like core memories are really important to me as an organizer,
Mhm.
trying to get as many of those as possible.
Yeah, because I mean that lets a lot of players want to come back next time, right? Because they got that feeling and they
Exactly.
know they'll get it again. And for both player and viewer, like holy like, and you have all like obviously all those players that like watch from home that like I guarantee this year saw for last year's and they were like, I want to go next year. Like, I'm planning this out.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's how we grow. That is how we grow as a scene.
All right, so moving along. Trophies and medals for Riptide. So
Mm-hmm.
are these all designed and provided by like Riptide staff and those who like run it? Is there anything you need to really worry about when it comes to them, or is it just kind of like an add-on for like it's one of those things that like you don't have to stress about. They give it to you at some point when it comes to like day three.
Yeah, no, they handle all that.
Nice. Okay.
Like we are almost completely hands off with trophies and medals. We
Nice.
just say medals for collegiate and medals for our main event, please. Thank you. And that's and Aaron goes and orders them, and then we get them on event day, and everything's great.
Nice. Um, Along with that, prize pool. Was there one? Is that something that Riptide also handled, or is that more of like your
Yeah.
side of
So
thing?
so when you sign up for an event, you know how when you like click the button, there's like a $10 or $15 fee.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's the prize pool.
Oh, interesting.
So so the prize pool was like 450 or 450 times $15 a la prize pool. That's where that cost goes. Is it goes
Gotcha.
straight to the prize pool
Okay.
because the pass itself that 60, 70, $80
Hmm.
when you sign up the for like Riptide. That is for like the convention center and equipment and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
That's all for all those expenses. That $10 or $15 you pay after that is for the prize pool of the tournament.
Okay.
And then so Riptide handles all of that, but Aaron asks us, "Hey, how many teams do you want to pay out to, or how do you want to pay out?"
Hmm.
And then me and Kraken go, "How big do we expect our prize pool to be?" And then we come up with a number, and
Okay.
then we tell Aaron our percentage breakdown. And Aaron goes, "All right, got it," and that's it.
Nice. Okay. Cool. So it's not like a crazy stressful figuring out. It's really like, yeah, here's some numbers. We crunched
Well,
it.
yeah, because there are tax implications.
Yeah, yeah.
Because again, the napkin math prize pool, 415 time or 450 times 15. The napkin math prize pool is like, I think it was north of $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is around $6,700.
Okay.
That which has tax implications.
Yeah, yeah.
So like the IRS is like, where did you get that money? And so that's why like Riptide as an event handles all of that on its own, and none of
Yeah.
that goes through me or Kraken.
Nice. Less stress.
Yeah, less stress for us. Well, and then also if the IRS audits Riptide and we messed up, all of a sudden everything's gone pear shaped.
Yeah, yeah. Now eyes are starting looking our way and the sweat builds up.
Exactly.
I mean, for the most part, this question kind of was answered throughout so far, but like working with the Riptide team, I mean, it seems like when it came to getting everything necessary set up, I mean, seemed pretty smooth for the most part.
Yeah, I know. Working with like Aaron is the main person we work with like before event weekend. But then
Hmm.
there's also like Contra and like Maddie and Jade,
Yeah,
who Maddie is the format Start GG person. Who, whenever me and Kraken say this is what we're doing and we need it put on Start GG, we give it to Maddie and she knocks it out of the park
nice.
and just like crushes it. And then Contra and Jade just handle all of the volunteer stuff in terms of getting them all of like the vouchers and t-shirts and all that fun stuff
Hmm.
and making sure that that stuff is handled. And
Okay,
it's always a pleasure to work with them because they crush it.
nice. As one of the main TOs for the event, um, are there still so was flying down and like preparing like stays and everything like flights and all that or I guess drives things you still had to pay yourself or was Riptide like accommodating? Because I know I think for
No,
MomoCon they
yeah.
flow out the like commentators and stuff. So I was wondering if with Riptide kind of a similar matter.
Yeah, Riptide does the same thing.
Okay.
They pay for our hotel room, they comp the plane ticket, and then they pay us after the fact.
Okay, nice.
Like um like running a major like this as part of another event, the first thing Kbot said when we did this is you should never lose money on one of these events if you're getting like contracted for it.
Got you.
So that's like because if you're doing it yourself, that's different,
Yeah, yeah.
obviously. But like for something like Riptide or MomoCon, where like me and Kraken or like me and Seekant are getting contracted to run Splatoon, if we're losing money on that, then that's eyebrow raising.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes sense, especially because like this is literally a major.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. WTO moment. I love that. I love that.
I I wish we could pay more people. That's something that me and Kraken kind of talked about this year was for next year not doing volunteer commentary
Hmm.
at Riptide and then paying commentators something.
Okay.
Unsure. Like, and again, this is a conversation that me and Kraken are probably going to have in 6 months
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna come up
when
again.
like Riptide comes back around.
Yeah, the prepping has to
Of
start.
do yeah, do we want to do invite only commentary this year? Um, and like that can change,
Hmm.
but I will say paying commentators does simplify things.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean the commentary roster for Riptide was massive. It was
So
crazy.
there are three different schedules that me and Kraken have to keep track of over the course of a weekend.
Hmm.
Actually, four. There's the Smash volunteer schedule, because some Splatoon volunteers go and help with the Smash event.
Yeah.
Then there's the Splatoon volunteer schedule with like 6 or 7 people on every shift,
Yeah.
depending between pool captain, stream runner, spec cam operator, stuff like that. Then there's the competition schedule,
Mhm.
who's playing what, where, when. And then there's the commentary schedule of who do I need in front of that camera before someone starts yelling at me.
Yeah.
So trying to keep track of all of those schedules at the same time while running the tournament is more stressful than you'd think.
I mean, I can only imagine too, because like, um, I mean, let alone we had like 20 plus commentators. Then you have all those commentators who are potentially playing, mixed in with more people that are probably doing both of that and also want to do a Smash set. They might go 0-2 in. And then,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the other volunteering for Smash too. It's like, it's so much like, I can't even fathom it. Like, that's just how crazy it just feels to me.
Yeah.
But y'all did it. Y'all got it done.
Mm-hmm. We got it done, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And everyone seemed to have a good time. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to question
Yeah. And that's all that matters.
it.
So I know you were TOing for practically the entire weekend, but did you ever have time to like view the Smash room, the artist area? And if not, were you able to have someone like check it out for you? Like, or were you just like kind of hunched over, stuck to that desk all day?
I think the amount of times I left the room during brackets, like during competition, I could probably count on my hands.
Wow.
Because basically, how the schedule worked out for the weekend was, so we had 10 a.m. pools. So Kraken went down to the venue at like 8. That way people could like get in and play if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I went down closer to 9, and then from 9 we did not leave the venue until about 11. Like the exception is like the tournament has gets food for us,
Hmm.
so we would like leave to eat, and then that's it. And then at 11, because again we have 10 a.m. pools the next day, we would probably go like hang out a little bit. Like Kraken would go hang out with TZS or like CCA,
Yeah.
and then I would go hang out with like some of my friends, and then we would go to bed and do it again the next day, because all of the vendors would close by the time we got out.
Yeah. Yeah.
There wasn't really a time for me and Kraken to go do that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, unfortunately, no.
Yeah. I mean, but again, it's a fair trade-off though. It's like the opportunity to like be a kind of spectator-esque or help run one of the largest events in the scene. Like,
Mhm.
like I think that's a pretty fair trade too.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting trade. One that I think is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it puts you a part of history too. Like, I mean, I know a lot of like players are like, they say like, "Oh, I competed in the like largest event," but like being able to say like you ran the largest event to me just seems so much cooler than just being
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
it's
I
definitely
played in it."
yeah, it's definitely something to put on the resume. That
Yeah.
is for certain. Yeah.
All right, this is what a question I've been really looking forward to. Would you ever consider playing at a LAN, that be it major or local, or will you from here on out stay strictly TOing?
I I want to play in another major. Um, the problem is that all of the majors in the foreseeable future I have a hand in.
That's fair.
So yes, but I need someone else to run one.
Yeah, that's fair.
which
Absolutely.
which we're trying to do, for the record. That's not a slight at anyone or
Yeah,
anything.
no, yeah.
SplatLANs is trying to get more events,
Hmm.
because like generally more majors is a good thing,
Yeah.
but that at least right now we're kind of, I don't want to say slump because a slump isn't the right word, but with the two events, they just so happen to be events that I'm running, so I can't really participate in them in good conscience.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's completely understandable. But what about locals though?
If a local popped up in the Carolinas, I'd probably go to it.
W.
yeah, but I don't I don't know of anyone who's thinking about setting up a local in the Carolinas except for me.
Hey, you know what they say? It always starts with one.
True, true.
That's how I think all these started. Sorry, it's just one person's got the drive, and then they find someone else in the area or like somewhere near, and the snowball goes.
It does. It rolls and it grows.
So, what is next for Raze now that Riptide is over?
Um, recovery, then
Yeah,
probably
W. Honestly.
then probably after that, Momocon is something I gotta think about pretty soon and locking down details for that.
Hmm.
Um, there's also IPL stuff on the horizon that I want to do, but that
Okay, nice.
also requires conversations and stuff that I haven't really had the time to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because of Riptide, so it's probably going to go in the column of things to come in the future. Like the 2025 calendar is something that I'd like to see happen, but I need to get more people on board and commitments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, those are the two prime, and then like college, like
Yeah, as obviously.
yeah,
The real life part comes into play now.
then there's the real life stuff.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. I mean, speaking of 2025, Riptide 2025 announced obviously like literally I think the end of Sunday or like Monday morning.
Yeah,
Imagine you're looking forward to playing that one out.
yeah, it'll be exciting. Because if we grow more,
Hmm.
then we're gonna have to switch rooms,
Yeah.
which will be exciting. Because traditionally the room we were in is called, I think, the River Rooms.
Okay.
Um, but because of our size, we're we actually had to have a conversation with Aaron this year of, hey, you might exceed the legally safe capacity of the room.
Yeah. Which I think we actually Loki kind of did at least for during Grant's fight.
Shh.
I said nothing. I said nothing. I said nothing. It was a joke.
um, so finding a new place for Splatoon in the venue
Yeah.
that will not, where we won't exceed the legal capacity of the room, is something that's very real.
Hmm.
It's something that I'm just honestly kind of excited for, because the conversations that we've had have been moving us potentially closer to the resort.
Okay.
Although, to be honest, we're about as far away as one can get, so everything is closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, which is exciting for me because it shaves a few minutes off my walk every morning. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially for players that like maybe don't stay at the resort too, like having to be able to just kind of go in and it's like, oh, Splatoon's right here. I don't have to like
mhm,
walk an extra couple minutes as well, along with my drive.
exactly, and then like I'm excited to see what CCA does next year,
Hmm.
because having collegiate teams I think is really cool,
Yeah.
just because it's like something that I think kind of validates competitive Splatoon.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I am always a CCA supporter, because that validation I think is really important for our community at large. Because if teams want to go to sponsors, they can say, hey, look, we have a collegiate circuit. We have, like, colleges have bought into this idea.
Yeah.
So that I think helps the entire scene as a whole, which is why I'm excited. And I want to try to get CCA more stuff, um, in general.
Hmm.
Like, I need to talk with specifically the MomoCon organizers about trying to get CCA at MomoCon,
Hmm. That'd be
and
so
see if
dope.
that's, yeah. Well, because and I know DRF is in chat, so he'd probably be able to correct me, but I'm pretty sure there are a bunch of schools in the southeast who we could probably convince to go pretty easily, or that I think would be easily convinced, provided I just get the pieces moving at the right time in the right order.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean the ZCA has seen such an increase, and I honestly love to see it because like I know that I think a community college near me on the East Coast is actually considering, um, I don't go there, but they're considering I think Splatoon, which is really cool to see that like more schools yeah are like tapping into the idea because they're like wow like this is like y'all are going out doing these things we see you like this is really cool like we should take part of this.
Yeah. Like it's also one of the things that I low-key wish I had a CCA team so I could compete again.
Yeah, I feel
But
that.
yeah. But yeah, my school sadly does not.
DRF does mention in chat there's 5 in Florida, 2 in GA, 1 SC, 1 AL, and 1 in the T 2 in
Yeah.
TW. Yeah, a lot of
Coastal
college schools.
Carolina Pog. I'm assuming that's this the South Carolina team. But yeah. Yeah.
How does actually that's something I did wonder like sponsorships in general when it comes to like this kind of stuff like I know I think well Red Bull's the most famous one for like events like this but they
Mhm.
kind of cater more for like Smash and everything but they like help out with it um is there a point you think we get to where like we can like I know that I think that's what needs like Nintendo approval technically but
Yeah, you need to have be a Nintendo licensed event to have sponsors because you need an exception. So the community
yeah
guidelines say you cannot have like XYZ prizes and be associated with XYZ type of
yeah
companies.
yeah yeah
Like primarily like crypto betting sites, stuff like that.
yeah which is valid.
So you have to apply for an exception for that and then become like officially licensed if you want to do something like that.
Okay,
Um,
so now is that something like for let's say like a major like Riptide um something that like for specifically like Splatoon or like helping towards the event, like you like the Splatoon TOs, like you guys would take care of, or is that like the org for Riptide?
Riptide as a whole applies for those licenses.
Okay, okay,
They have to apply for a license for each event, but because they need those licenses, they have to apply for them, and
hmm
that's something that like Aaron specifically handles because they need like a bunch of them.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
like Smash Ultimate singles, doubles, crew battle, like I think all need separate licenses. I
yeah,
could be wrong though. I because I haven't gone through that process personally,
mm.
but um, due to the number, the generally Riptide and like MomoCon handle that on their own.
Okay, got you. But I know that like that's like a talk to like want to grow and probably the local scene is like local sponsors, which would be huge. That'd be so cool. But
It would be.
it makes sense that like probably one you have to find a sponsor that's willing, find the way to contact them appropriately, and then two obviously reach out for the Nintendo exception for it, of like hey we would like to have the sponsor, and then obviously follow all the guidelines for it.
Yeah. Well, and also like sponsorships for tournaments are different than sponsorship for players.
Mm.
Sponsorship for tournaments, I wish we had more of. Um, but a lot of like myself included, we as TOs don't know how to find them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then finding products and things that a want to sponsor us and then that we want to have sponsor us is hard
yeah,
because like there have been a couple of organizations that have approached IPL in the past and be like, here's this thing, we want to sponsor you, and then they give us their proposal or whatever, and it's just completely unreasonable.
yeah. Something that
Like,
like you literally can't like these are teenagers playing this game. Good luck.
yeah, like so that balancing act is challenging,
Mhm.
and like I'm not even going to start about player sponsorships, but yeah,
Yeah, because
they're
that's a
they're a
whole
whole different
nother.
beast
I was about to
entirely.
say, yeah, I know like a joke I have with a lot of friends of mine is uh like I think it's Moist Critical that has like the Moist esports. We're always just like
Hmm.
wait because like just Moist and Splatoon, water, Splatoon. I feel like it'd be such a funny thing to combo. Um, but I'm always like just rooting for one of those like big esports orgs. Just like tap into Splatoon because that's all it takes. Is an
Hmm.
esport org like that to be like, yeah, we see Splatoon. Yeah, we'll do it. Let's do it. Let's fly them out to the next major and push from there.
Well, and with we're probably not going to see player organizations for a long time
Mm.
because there isn't really any money in Splatoon. Like again, it kind of comes back to the making your career out of Splatoon
Yeah.
isn't really viable right now because the only real viable way to monetize tournaments is pay to play or sponsors for the tournaments.
Yeah.
And the sponsor for the tournament would pay the sponsor for the team, and it would just create a cycle essentially.
Mm.
Um, but then pay to play, that would give the team sponsorship something to do, and it wouldn't. Then we wouldn't need tournament sponsorships. But pay to play online, at least legally, is gray at best
Yeah.
because there's a lot of gambling laws that are just kind of not the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then they're
They're
not as
not
like,
helpful in the slightest.
yeah, they could be very broad in a sense where it's like too questionable to want to risk it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair. Well, one of these days, we'll hope we're getting there. I mean, the size is growing.
Yes.
I mean, I definitely like. I think you said earlier before we first started. Next 6 months probably not most likely, but Splatoon 4 is an opportunity, and it's nearing closer by the day. So there's always potential.
Every day we inch towards it.
Yeah. Waiting for that Nintendo Direct reveal trailer where we're like, please don't be DLC. Please don't be DLC.
If it was still DLC, that'd be fine.
That's yeah.
Like
It keeps
side
it
order
going.
was fantastic, and again, it hypes the game up.
Yeah.
Literally any news from Nintendo is good for us.
Yeah.
It's just having the community ready to kind of pounce on it and do something with it. That's the hard part.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fair. I mean, it could be cool to see it held on a little bit longer too. Like, I don't know what kind of other addition they could do, but like, if it goes on the lines of how Side Order was, like, we would be in for a really good time.
Oh, absolutely. Side order was amazing.
It was peak. I still need to finish all the weapons to get the Octo Shot. I'm still bad.
No way. I mean, I technically don't even own side order. I've just watched my friends play it.
Fair.
So
Sorry, I've done this. I don't know how many live streams I've watched of players playing that, and I'm like, getting all the same color on like the chipboard. I could never. Sorry, that is insane to me.
I mean, getting all the chips is kind of fun though.
I wanted like I think they call like 1000% thing. Like I'm still trying to
Yeah.
get to that point where like I think there's like a couple for each weapon, but then like it's RNG based obviously, so it's like I'm missing like one with charger, and like I'm not good with charger, so it's like how many times do I gotta go through with this weapon to suffer to get this one chip?
Yeah. RNG, let's go.
A land making it just a little bit better at a time though. At least with Stamp and Brella. All right,
Stamp
well,
umbrella.
things that work on land slightly work a little bit better because of the netcode online with the recent patch, kind of a little bit.
A little, kind of, sorta, maybe,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah. But land hammer, I mean, peak. I hate it because it's good.
I think it was Genesis. It might have been Genesis 6, where Hammer like first come out or first got patched, and like Arashi was the only person who played it.
Mm.
And then FLC tweeted like after matches were done for the day, something along the lines of "I see only one person read the patch notes today." And it was just like one of those, oh my gosh.
They saw the vision and they full throttled.
Yeah.
And now I don't think you can go like 1 hour without something immediately being memed on for the patch notes to be like, all right, I gotta check these patches. What's in it?
Oh,
God.
yeah. Patch notes. Don't even get me started on them.
I think everyone was expecting one too from like the update for the Grand Fest. I'm just remember I'm looking at I'm like, why would we get another patch note. It's not even been a week since the last one. Like, there's no
Yeah, like
rush.
they have no time to analyze the data
Yeah.
that they are gathering. So like what why would they do something now?
Eventually, maybe like another month's time, or post like Grand Fest for like a week or so. Once they're like, okay, like this is what we saw as the improvements, but not yet. We'll get there though.
Yeah. Yep. We'll get there eventually. Maybe one day Nintendo will make a patch that everyone likes. Oh wait, that's not possible.
Yeah, I was about to say. Somewhere someone's not gonna be happy with the littlest change. It's gonna be like a slight nerf to like arrow spray, and it's gonna be all mayhem for the turf warriors.
there aren't enough turf warriors.
So
That's a conversation for a different day, I
yeah,
think.
absolutely. Uh, well, I mean, from me, that's everything I got for in regards to Riptide for you as well. So this is the point where I love to give the guests pretty much full reign of the floor. It's all yours. Shout out who you'd like to shout out. Thank who you'd love to thank. Say what you'd like to say. Um, be it good patch or not. Um, take the mic.
Oh, what do I want to say? Play more turf war, watch more tournaments, respect your TOs, stop engaging with people on Twitter. Yeah.
I think that's one of the best like ending quotes I've ever heard.
I'm glad I could provide.
So it's some pure educational information. I love that. It's everything.
Yeah, I try my best.
Oh, man. All right, well then, if that's all that you have, um,
Yeah, and that's all I want to scream from the rooftops right now.
all right, absolutely. So, all right, well then, with that, then that's gonna wrap up this episode of the Cactus Patch. Once again, huge thank you and shout out to Raze coming on out, talking about Riptide, and just anything and everything from there to even like how they got into TOing. I mean, Raze, personally for me, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. It was an immense pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk to people. I always enjoy this.
Absolutely, spread the information and find out things that maybe people were curious about but never thought of to be able to ask in the moment because they're too busy watching people flex their e-litters online. But yeah, with that, that's gonna be the end of this episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Same time, or not probably not same time, but same place, same host. Enjoy the rest of your nights, evenings, or days. Laters.